Welcome to Marble Mind. Here, we forge an unshakable spirit in the fire of ancient wisdom. Today, we descend into the hardest truth of all, why greatness demands isolation, and why you must be willing to walk alone to reach the summit. Listen closely. The world hates a man who stands apart. The herd is threatened by the silence of the solitary soul, because your isolation is a mirror that reflects their own cowardice. They call you lonely because they cannot imagine being whole without the constant noise of the mediocre. But the ancients knew better. They knew that the crowd is the graveyard of genius, and that greatness is a plant that grows only in the soil of solitude. Every titan of history, every master of the Stoic art, and every conqueror of fate had to pass through the valley of isolation. They had to leave the warmth of the village to find the fire of the stars. If you are still seeking the approval of the masses, if you are still afraid of the quiet of an empty room, you are not ready for greatness. You are still a child playing in the dust. Before we begin this ascent, I demand your commitment. If you have already chosen the path of the solitary seeker, or if you are ready to cut the chains of social dependency, write in the comments, "The Lonely Summit." Let this be your oath. Let the world know that you are no longer a part of the swarm. You are something else, something harder. Imagine a mountain peak. It is beautiful, it is powerful, and it is eternal. But it is also freezing, windswept, and utterly alone. The valley below is crowded and warm, but the air is thick with the breath of the common. To breathe the air of the gods, you must be willing to leave the valley. You must be willing to be misunderstood, mocked, and forgotten by the many. In this journey, we will explore the sublime exile of the Stoic masters. We will learn why Seneca praised the man who could be his own universe. We will build the mindset of the outsider, the only one truly capable of changing the world. If you seek comfort, look elsewhere. But if you seek the greatness that only the dark and the quiet can provide, stay. We are about to begin. The Stoics had a profound contempt for public opinion. They called it doxa, a shifting, unstable mist that blinds men to the truth. To live for the crowd is to live in a state of permanent mental decay. Why? Because the crowd always demands the lowest common denominator. To be accepted by the mass, you must become as soft, as loud, and as distracted as they are. Greatness, by its very definition, is an outlier. It is that which stands outside the norm. Therefore, to seek greatness while remaining one of the boys is a logical impossibility. You cannot fly with the eagles while you are still pecking with the chickens. The Stoic realizes that every moment spent in shallow social chatter is a moment stolen from his own evolution. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." And what are the ambitions of the crowd? Comfort, entertainment, status, validation. These are the toys of slaves. If you want to build a mind that is made of marble, you must stop feeding it the garbage of the collective. Isolation is the only way to quarantine your soul from the infectious mediocrity of the world. Think of the herd instinct as a gravitational pull. It wants to keep you down in the dirt, where it's safe and familiar. When you begin to rise, when you begin to think for yourself and practice the rigors of Stoic discipline, the herd will try to pull you back. They will use guilt. They will use concern. and they will use ridicule. This is the first test of greatness. Can you endure the social cold? Isolation is the filter of reality. When you step away from the noise, the voices of others stop being your internal dialogue. You finally begin to hear the sound of your own reason. It is a quiet, steady voice, but it is the only one that matters. Seneca said, "I have never come back from among men as wise as I was when I went among them." Even the greatest of us lose a piece of our soul in the friction of the crowd. Practical advice: begin the social fast. For the next week, eliminate all unnecessary social interactions. No small talk, no hanging out for the sake of killing time. If a conversation does not build your character or serve a high purpose, end it. Feel the weight of the silence that follows. It will feel heavy. It will feel like social death. Good. In that death, the army of one begins to stir. You are clearing the ground so that something monumental can be built. You are preparing for the isolation that greatness demands. Everything that is profound and lasting in human history was conceived in a state of deep, undisturbed isolation. The crowd can produce consensus, but only the solitary mind can produce revelation. To become great, you must first become a stranger to the world. The Stoics understood that the mind is like a vessel of water. In the city, in the marketplace, in the constant stream of social interaction, that vessel is perpetually shaken. The water is turbid, the sediment is stirred up. You cannot see your own reflection, let alone the truth of the universe. Isolation is the act of setting the vessel down. It is the process of letting the silt of other people's opinions settle to the bottom until the water is crystal clear. Epictetus taught that we must withdraw into ourselves. This is not an act of cowardice, but an act of supreme intellectual courage. It is easier to follow the lead of others than to face the terrifying emptiness of your own original thought. Greatness demands that you sit in that emptiness until it speaks to you. Most men are terrified of their own minds. They need a podcast, a television, or a friend to protect them from the silence. But the great man uses that silence as a laboratory. Think of the view from above. You cannot see the patterns of the battlefield while you are swinging your sword in the mud. You must climb the mountain. You must isolate yourself from the fray to understand the fray. In your solitude, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most difficult work of all. You are thinking. You are analyzing your failures. You are sharpening your principles. You are building a vision that is not a copy of a copy, but something forged in the unique fire of your own soul. The greatest obstacle to greatness is the biological urge to fit in. We are descendants of survivors who knew that being cast out of the tribe meant death. But we no longer live in the caves. In the modern world, the tribe is often a cage. The social instinct that once kept us alive is now the very thing that keeps us mediocre. Stoicism is the cure for this ancient fear. To the Stoic, the only thing that matters is arete, excellence. If excellence requires you to be an outcast, then the outcast's life is the only one worth living. Greatness demands that you become other. It demands that you accept the label of strange, cold, or arrogant, from those who cannot reach your altitude. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "What do I care how many people know me? My conscience is my audience." This is the core of the army of one. When you are isolated, you are forced to develop an internal validation system. You stop looking at the likes and the claps to know if you are right. You look at your own reason. You look at the cold, hard facts of your progress. When you choose isolation, you are performing a surgery on your own ego. You are cutting away the parts of yourself that live for the gaze of others. It is a painful procedure. There will be nights when you feel the pull of the old tribe, when you want to surrender your greatness just to feel the warmth of belonging again. Stand firm. That warmth is the warmth of a rotting heap. True greatness is a lonely peak, but the view from there is clear. By choosing to be other, you gain a perspective that the herd will never know. You become a leader because you are the only one who doesn't need to be led. You become a master because you have mastered the one person everyone else is running away from: yourself. If this path resonates in your heart, become a part of our brotherhood. Subscribe to Marble Mind. Let us continue to forge our spirits together in the quiet of the forge. To see a mountain, you must stand away from it. To see the truth of your life, you must stand away from the world. Most men live their lives with their faces pressed against the glass of the present moment. They see only the blurred colors of immediate desires and petty fears. Isolation provides the distance effect. When you stop participating in the daily drama of the masses, you gain the perspective of the historian. You begin to see the long cycles of cause and effect. Marcus Aurelius practiced this religiously. He looked at the frantic rushing of the Roman citizens and saw it for what it was: the scurrying of ants on a pile of dirt. When you are isolated, you stop reacting to the now and start building for the forever. This is why greatness demands the desert. In the desert, there are no distractions to lie to you. There are no social mirrors to distort your reflection. There is only the sun, the wind, and the stone. This clarity is the secret weapon of the Stoic. While others are drowning in the noise of the week, the isolated man is meditating on the wisdom of the centuries. You are not reading the news, you are reading the Stoic masters. You are not discussing the latest scandal, you are discussing the nature of justice and the strength of the soul. This alienation is not a loss. It is a massive strategic upgrade. You are trading the shallow knowledge of the many for the deep wisdom of the few. There is a sacred law in the pursuit of greatness. Work in the dark so you can shine in the light. But the modern world has forgotten this. Today, people want to be seen becoming great rather than actually being great. They broadcast their training, they film their deep work, and in doing so, they kill the very thing they are trying to build. True mastery is a shy creature. It only reveals itself in total privacy. When you are alone, you can fail without shame. You can experiment without the judgment of the experts. You can push your limits until you break, and then you can rebuild yourself in silence. This is the quiet work. It is the thousands of hours spent in a room focused on a single task while the rest of the world is out seeking pleasure. The Stoic does not seek credit for his labor. He knows that the work is its own reward. Epictetus taught that the carpenter does not come to you and say, "Listen to me discourse on the art of carpentry," but he shows you a well-made house. Your isolation is your workshop. It is the place where you hammer your character into a shape that can withstand any blow. When you finally emerge from your isolation, you do not need to announce your greatness. It will be visible in the way you speak, the way you move, and the way you face adversity. The world will wonder where this strength came from. They will look for a secret, a shortcut, or a trick. But the secret is simply the quiet work. It is the hundreds of nights you spent alone, choosing the hard path when no one was watching. Greatness is not a performance. It is a residue of your solitude. To the average man, the Stoics' choice of isolation looks like failure. They see your absence from their parties, your silence in their group chats, and your lack of interest in their trends, and they conclude that you are losing. They think you are depressed, or worse, irrelevant. The Stoic calls this social suicide, and he commits it willingly. You must be prepared to let your old reputation die. You must be willing to let people believe you are finished while you are actually being reborn. Greatness requires a period of invisibility. If you are constantly maintaining your brand or your image, you are not growing. You are merely polishing a shell. Seneca advised, avoid the crowd, avoid the many, avoid even the few. Why? Because every time you seek to be understood by those who do not share your hunger, you dilute your resolve. You waste energy defending your past to people who are content to stay in the ditch. The price of entry to the upper echelons of human achievement is the courage to be a ghost in your own social circle. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't complain. Just disappear into your work. Let the world think what it wants. Their opinions are not your concern. Your only concern is the verdict of your own reason at the end of the day. This social suicide is actually an act of supreme self-preservation. You are killing the part of you that lives for them, so that the part of you that lives for greatness can breathe. Isolation is the ultimate quality control for your thoughts. When you are surrounded by noise, your mind is a chaotic mess of borrowed ideas, media slogans, and other people's anxieties. You cannot tell what is yours and what is theirs. In solitude, the borrowed thoughts eventually die of starvation. They need the constant reinforcement of the crowd to stay alive. When that reinforcement is cut off, only the gold remains, the thoughts that are rooted in your true nature and the eternal laws of Stoicism. This is the process of intellectual purification. A great man is not someone who knows everything. He is someone who has discarded everything that is not essential. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by the most expensive distractions in the Roman Empire, yet he spent his nights in a tent, stripping his mind down to the bare necessities of virtue and logic. He knew that greatness is not about adding more to your life, but about subtracting the trivial. Your isolation is the sieve. You shake it and the sand, the gossip, the envy, the fleeting trends, falls through the mesh. What is left? Your purpose, your discipline, your mortality. These are the stones upon which empires are built. If you cannot stand the sight of what is left when the noise stops, then you have more work to do. But if you find peace in the remaining silence, then you have found your inner gold. You are now ready to build something that the world can never tear down. It is a paradox of power. To lead the many, you must be able to stand apart from them. A leader who is one of the crowd can only go where the crowd goes, which is usually toward the path of least resistance. Greatness demands that you become a lighthouse. A lighthouse does not run around the shore looking for boats to save. It stands fixed, immovable, and solitary. Its power comes from its stability in the storm. When you embrace isolation, you are training for this stability. The Stoic leader is not a people pleaser. He is a man of principle. Because he has spent so much time alone, he does not fear the withdrawal of public support. He does not fear the cold wind of criticism. He has already survived the silence of his own company, so the noise of the world cannot shake him. Think of Cato the Younger. He stood alone against the corruption of Rome, even when his own friends begged him to compromise. He was an army of one because he had mastered himself in solitude. People followed him not because he was likable, but because he was a fixed point in a world of chaos. By being alienated from the petty desires of the mass, he gained a moral authority that even his enemies respected. Your isolation is your training ground for this authority. When you stop seeking to be integrated into the mediocre, you start becoming a destination for the lost. People are naturally drawn to those who are self-contained. In a world of desperate, clingy, and noisy individuals, the man who is comfortable being alone is a king. You are not rejecting humanity. You are showing humanity what a self-sovereign human looks like. Your thought is vital. Leave a short but powerful comment under this video. Let it be your seal on today's lesson. The greatest tragedy of the social man is that he lives only in the now. He is obsessed with the current trend, the current gossip, and the current fear. But the man of isolation lives in eternity. When you shut the door on the world of the living, you open the door to the world of the dead. The great sages, philosophers, and titans who came before you. Seneca said that we can choose our own parents. We can be born again into the lineage of the great minds of history. In your solitude, you are not alone. You are in a boardroom with Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Socrates. You are having a dialogue with the centuries. This is why greatness demands isolation. You cannot hear the voice of the ages if you are listening to the chatter of the suburbs. This perspective grants you a monumental calm. When you realize that your struggles have been faced by better men 2,000 years ago, your huge problems become small. Your unique pain becomes a common human experience. In the silence of your study, you find the universal logic that governs all things. Isolation allows you to build a legacy that outlasts your physical life. Those who live for the crowd are forgotten the moment the crowd finds a new toy. But those who live for the truth, in the quiet of their own integrity, build something that echoes through time. You are not building a sandcastle on the beach of now. You are carving a mountain in the range of forever. To do that, you must be willing to be alone with your work, your thoughts, and your destiny. The final stage of the isolated path is the most misunderstood. It is the return. Greatness demands isolation. not as a permanent escape, but as a temporary hardening. You go into the wilderness as a man, and you return as a force. When you finally re-emerge from your period of strategic silence, you will find that you no longer fit into the old spaces. And that is your greatest strength. The Stoic who has mastered himself in solitude possesses a presence that cannot be faked. Because you have faced the abyss of your own mind and survived, you have a gravity that pulls others toward you. You don't have to shout to be heard. Your silence speaks for you. Marcus Aurelius lived in the busiest palace in the world, yet he was the most isolated man in the empire. He understood the paradox. The more self-sufficient you are, the more effective you become in the world. When you don't need anything from the people you lead, you can be truly just. When you don't fear their disapproval, you can be truly honest. Your isolation has made you dangerous to the status quo because you are a man who cannot be bought, intimidated, or distracted. This is the ultimate goal of the army of one. You have used isolation to build a character that is a finished product. You are no longer a work in progress seeking feedback from the crowd. You are a completed statue of marble. Now you can stand in the middle of the marketplace, and the noise of the world will simply bounce off your surface. You are in the world, but your foundation is elsewhere, in the quiet, eternal realm of the Stoic sage. The ascent to the lonely summit is complete, but for you, the journey has only just begun. We have explored why the crowd is a graveyard for the soul. We have seen how isolation acts as a forge, a filter, and a laboratory for the spirit. We have understood that the price of greatness is a social suicide that leads to a higher life. If you take only one thing from this journey, let it be this: do not fear the silence. The silence is not an empty void. It is the presence of your own potential. Every time you choose to sit alone with your thoughts instead of running to a distraction, you are adding another layer of steel to your armor. Every time you choose the hard path of the outsider over the easy path of the herd, you are claiming your place among the greats. The world will try to pull you back. It will tell you that you are missing out. It will tell you that you are being too serious. It will try to sedate you with belonging. Look them in the eye and say nothing. Let your work be your answer. Let your discipline be your manifesto. Let your life be the proof that greatness cannot be shared. It must be earned in the dark, in the cold, and in the absolute solitude of a soul that has finally found itself. Go now, shut the door, silence the noise, and start the quiet work that will echo through the ages. You are no longer a leaf in the wind. You are the mountain. You are the marble mind. Stay cold, stay hard, stay solitary.